Decriminalizing biking and walking. That's the goal of a bill in KCMO City Hall proposed by Mayor Quinton Lucas.
The bill would repeal 3 existing city codes regarding pedestrians and traffic. Bryant Madrick is live at City Hall to tell us more about this legislation. Bryant, good morning.
Good morning. Bike Walk KC is one group that advocates for bikers and walkers in the city. They are throwing their full support behind this bill. And this bill that was proposed in City Council, still being talked about in committee, would get rid of 3 existing laws right now in the city when it comes to people who walk and bike. So let's go step by step over what these 3 existing laws are. The first one deals with jaywalking. The second one allows a bicycle to be inspected at, quote, any time if there's reasonable cause to believe the bike is unsafe. And the third one requires wheels and tires to be clean while in the city. Well, the bill argues that these existing codes don't make people safer and actually expose citizens to unnecessary interactions with police. Bike Walk KC, the group that advocates for bikers and walkers, says this is a step towards stopping over policing in the city.
We deserve to be able to walk and bike in our streets without worrying about being punished for something as simple as walking where there might not be a crosswalk or biking with a bike that may not be 100% in tip-top shape.
So right now, this bill still being discussed in committee, in the Transportation Committee to be exact. No word on when it will be possibly getting out of that committee and towards the entire council. Back to you.
Bryant, we've talked about who's for the bill. What about opposition? Anyone saying no?
Well, at least not vocally on the record. I took a look at the testimony letters online, and everyone who submitted a letter supports this legislation. Now, I did reach out to the police department to find out if they have an opinion on this proposed legislation, but a spokesperson told me that the department cannot comment on pending legislation. Back to you.
Bryant, thank you very much. And what do you know about the history of jaywalking? Really interesting. We want to give you some more context on the issue here. The term jaywalking, just over 100 years old. In fact, according to Merriam-Webster Dictionary, the first written instance of the word appeared where? The Kansas City Star in October of 1905. At that time, it had nothing to do with crossing the street, but was used to refer to people who, quote, lacked sidewalk etiquette. The more modern definition of the word and the laws banning it started in the 1920s. It was auto companies that were behind the effort. A historian at the University of Virginia, Peter Norton, wrote a whole book about it called Fighting Traffic, the Dawn of the Motor Age in the American City. In it, he shows how automobile deaths rose drastically in the early 1900s, sparking outrage and a push for severe restrictions against cars. In response, Norton says automakers and dealers worked to legally redefine who had priority on streets so that pedestrians would be restricted instead of cars. In 1912, Kansas City became the first city in the country to pass an ordinance requiring pedestrians to cross at crosswalks only. That brings us to today, when many cities, including KC, are trying to repeal those jaywalking laws. So what's the alternative here? In an op-ed for Bloomberg, transportation expert Angie Schmidt says the focus should be on making streets safer for pedestrians, not punishing them. She points to more crosswalks, better street lighting, and more sidewalks as some of the improvements that cities should focus on.